Welcome guys to this another video. This is part 3, the final part of our consumer arithmetic based videos. But before we get into this one guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't yet done it. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we post new videos. Let's get right into it. Now looking at the question that was given on the June 2019 paper. Irma's take-home pay is $4,320 per fortnight, which actually means every 2 weeks. Each fortnight, Irma's pay is allocated according to the following table, as we are seeing here. Now the question is in part 1, what is Irma's annual take-home pay, which is yearly? That's what annual means here. What's her yearly take-home pay, assuming she works 52 weeks in any given year, right? Now recall that Irma's pay per fortnight is $4,320. Now fortnight means every 2 weeks. So if she's paid fortnightly, we want to know how many fortnights is in 52 weeks. So how many 2 weeks can we get out of 52 weeks? Which means we can definitely divide 52 by 2 to find the number of fortnights, or number of 2 weeks. Let me write it as 2 weeks, probably easier to relate to. So number of 2 weeks in 52 weeks, we'll have to divide these 52 weeks by 2, which is definitely 26, which means we can get 26 fortnights out of these 52 weeks. Therefore, we know her annual take-home pay, let me call it annual pay, would be equal to, she'll be paid for 26 fortnights over the 52 weeks, and for each fortnight she'll be getting $4,320. So let's see what we'll get here. And again, I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So it's 26 times 4,320. And we're getting $112,320. So $112,320. So this would actually be her annual salary or yearly salary. Now looking at part 2 of the same question. Determine the amount of money that Irma allocated for rent each month. Now, we want to pay attention to this right here, the time period, which is month, because all the information in the table is with respect to 2 weeks. This all relates to a 2 weeks period, right? So if we should perform any calculation to get this X value here using all these information here, it will be with respect to a 2-week period and not a month. So after we have performed that calculation, we have to make the necessary adjustment so that we find the amount of money that will be allocated for rent each month. So let's see how we can go about this. Now, the rent, the food, the other living expenses, plus the savings all adds up to $4,320. So it's very easy to come up with an equation here, right? So we know that x plus 629 plus 2x plus 1,750 is equal to 4,320. And of course, I hope that makes a whole lot of sense to you. So the next step is to group like terms. So we'll group the x's together. So I'll have x plus 2x, and I'll have 629 plus 1,750, and this is equal to 4,320. Now x is the same thing as 1x, and 1x plus 2x will give us 3x, plus I'll use my calculator to aid me with this part here. So it's 629 plus 1,750, which is 2,379. 2,379 is equal to 4,320. Now we need to make x the subject here, so I'll subtract 2,379 from both sides, and we'll be left with 3x is equal to, and again I'll use my calculator here, so it's 4,320 minus 2,379 is equal to 1,941. Right, and I'll continue here. I'm running out of space there. So it's 3x is equal to 1,941. And to make x a subject here, I'll divide both sides by 3. And I'll be left with x is equal to, and again I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So it's 1,941 divided by 3. And I'm getting $647. So this would be the amount that is allocated to rent fortnightly, right? Over a 2-week period. So the amount that will be allocated to rent for the month, we need to find out how many fortnights is in a month. Of course, we can only have 2 fortnights in a month. So this answer here, the value for x here, is with respect to 2 weeks, which is a fortnight. So to find the amount that will be allocated to rent over a month's period, we need to multiply this result by 2 because we have 2 fortnights in a month. So if this is what she'll pay for rent for 1 fortnight, it means for a month, which is 2 fortnights, it would be 2 times this value here. Right? And I hope this makes a whole lot of sense. And let's see what we get in here. So it's 2 times $647, which is $1,294. So this is the amount that would have been allocated to rent over a month's period. Now looking at part 3 of the same question. All of Irma's savings is used to pay her son's university tuition costs, which is $150,000. If Irma's pay remains the same and she saves the same amount each year, what is the minimum number of years that she must work in order to save enough money to cover her son's tuition costs? All right, very interesting question. Now, the first thing that I want to do is to find out how many fortnights are in a year, and would have found that number in part 1, I believe, which was 26. So you can always rewind the video and go back to that part of the question if you're not relating well to what I'm saying here. So we found that to be 26. So we have 26 fortnights, and let me use F for fortnights, and we have 26 fortnights in a year, right? So let's see how much she'll save in a year. If she's saving this per fortnight, and we have 26 fortnights in a year, let's see how much she'll save in a year, right? So let's see. So it will be 26 times 1,750. And let's see what we'll get here. And let's see what we get here. So it's 26 times 1,750 is equal to $45,500. Right, so that is what she'll save for the year. Now we want to find out how many years, the number of years it will take her to actually save $150,000, which is the cost of her son's university tuition. So this is what we want to come up with, right? And this is what we get in each year, 45,500. To see how many 45,500 we can get out of 150,000, which is actually telling us how many years we'll need to save, because this is what we get in per year. So the amount of 45,500 we can get out of 150,000, that value also represents the number of years that Irma will have to save for in order to come up with her son's tuition. And again, I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So it's 150,000 divided by 45,500. And let's see what we're getting. Now we're getting 3.2967 and it continues, but I'm just going to write this to four decimal place for now before I elaborate a little bit. So this cannot be our answer based on how the question was asked, right? So they asked us, what is the minimum number of years? What is the minimum number of years, right? Now, we know that 3.2967, and we know that there were some other decimal places there, is greater than 3, the whole number 3, right? So if she saves for 3 years, she wouldn't come up with enough money to pay her son tuition, which is $150,000. Therefore, the minimum amount of years, so I write it as the minimum number of years, would be equal to 4 years. Now looking at the question that was given on the January 2021 paper. Marco is on a vacation in the Caribbean. He changes 4,500 Mexican pesos to Eastern Caribbean dollars. He receives 630 Caribbean dollars. Complete the statement below about the exchange rate. Now it's very easy for us to find the exchange rate, guys. We know for this, let's see, we know for this 630 Eastern Caribbean dollars, he would have gotten the equivalent of 4,500 Mexican pesos, which is denoted by MXN. So there we go. And an easy way to do this, guys, if we want to find out what is one Eastern Caribbean dollars to a certain amount of Mexican pesos, we can actually divide both sides by 630. And I tell you the rationale of doing this. If I divide 630 by 630, I'll get 1, right? 630 going to itself 1 time. So that's 1 Eastern Caribbean dollars is equal to, let's see the equivalent here. So it's 4,500 divided by 630 is equal to, which is $7.14 in Mexican pesos. So it's $7.14 in Mexican pesos, right? So we can definitely finish that statement with $7.14. And that definitely would have been our answer right there. Now looking at the question that was given on the June 2021 paper. When Megan started working, she was paid $85 each week. After a 6-month probationary period, her pay was increased by 20%. How much was she paid each week after the increase? Now, her pay was increased by 20%, as we're seeing here. So, there are several ways how we can do this, several ways in my head right now as I'm speaking here now. The route that I'm going to take is probably the simplest route. Her pay, initial pay, in percentage actually represents 100%, right? So, which means her pay after the increase, right? I'm going to put after increase here. If her initial pay is represented by 100% and she would have received an increase of 20%, then now she's paid at 120% of her initial salary of $85. So let's see how we could actually go about this. 120% is 120 divided by 100 of means multiplication times the 85 there, and let's see what we'll get. And again, I'll use my calculator to aid me. So it's 120 times 85 divided by 100. And I'm getting $102 here. So her new salary after the increase would have been $102. Now looking at the question that was given on the January 2022 paper, Rhea worked 4 weeks in the month of August and her gross earnings was $2,463.75. Her regular week comprised 40 hours and overtime were paid at 1.5 times the hourly rate. Show that Rhea worked 15 hours overtime in August. Now, there's a couple of things to note, guys. Her hourly rate is $13.50. And after working for 40 hours in a week, she actually earns $540. Now, the next thing that we could find here is her overtime rate, right? That's the next thing I'm going to find here. So her overtime rate, let me call it that. Now, her overtime rate is 1.5 times the hourly rate. Another way how we could write 1.5 is 1.5 times the hourly rate of $13.50. And let's see what we'll get here. So it's 1.5 times 13.50. This is equal to 20.25. So this is her overtime rate. Now, the next thing that we must observe, guys, is that Rhea worked 4 weeks. So if this is her pay before overtime for 1 week, let's see how much she'll earn in 4 weeks. So let's check her pay in a 4-week period. So if she gets $540 in a week, then for 4 weeks, she'll get 4 times this amount. Again, we'll use our calculator to aid us. So it's 4 times 540, which is $2,160. So this would be her earning for 4 weeks. And this is the context in which we are looking at the question, right? Rhea worked 4 weeks in the month of August. And that was her gross earning after 4 weeks. So with that said, we can now develop a formula pretty similar to the question that we would have done in the June 2018 paper. So you can always go back to that question and use it as a reference to better understand this one. So I'll develop this formula and I'll call Rhea's gross earning WR, since Rhea name begins with an R, is equal to the amount of money that she would have earned over the 4 weeks before overtime, and that is $2,160 plus her overtime rate of $20.25 times the number of overtime hours that she would have worked, and that is what we want to prove here. So I'm going to call those hours H. Right, so I'm going to call it 8. So it's 20.25 times 8. And of course, this is pretty useful. So now we can plug in all the values here. So her gross earning, which is WR, so we can have 2,463.75 is equal to 2,160 plus 20.25 H. And what we're trying to prove here, guys, is that H will actually be equal to 15 because they asked us to show that Rhea worked 15 hours overtime in August. So the first thing I'll do here is subtract 2,160 from both sides in a quest to make H the subject of the equation. And let's see what we'll get here. So it's 2,463.75 minus 2,160. And here we're getting 303. It's 303.75 is equal to 2,160 from 2,160 is 0. So we're left with 20.25 h. And now we can definitely divide both sides by 20.25. 20.25. And we'll be left with h is equal to, and again I'll use my calculator to aid me here, so it's 303.75 divided by 20.25 equal, and we should be getting 15, and that's definitely what we are getting, so it's 15 hours here, right? So we can say therefore proven. Now looking at part 3 of the same question, in August, 20% of Ria's gross earning was deducted as tax. How much money does she have left after the deduction, right? So what we're trying to find here is what we refer to as her net salary. So this is after tax would have been taken, right? Now, her gross salary represents 100% if we want to look at it in percentage, which means if a 20% tax is deducted, it means that 20% of her income would have been deducted. Thus, that implies that she'll only receive 80% of her income here of $2,463.75. So let's see what this is. So 80% is the same thing as 80 out of 100 of means multiplication times the $2,463.75. And let's see what we'll get here. Let's see if I can bring up my calculator to the side right here, just out of the way. So it's 80 times 2,463.75 equal, and we want to divide this by 100. And this is $1,971. So this is what she'll get after the 20% tax would have been deducted. Rhea invested $219 of her earnings for 3 years at a rate of 4.5% per annum simple interest. How much interest does she receive after 3 years? So, want to find her simple interest after 3 years. So we can use the formula here where the simple interest is equal to the principal, the amount of money that she would have invested, times the rate, which is in percentage here, the 4.5%, times the time in years, divided by 100. So this is equal to, so P represents her investment of $219 times the rate, which is 4.5, times the time in years, which is 3, divided by 100. Let's see what we'll get here. And I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So it's 219 times 4.5 times 3 equal, divided by 100. And let's see what I'm getting here. So I'm getting 29.565. So I'm just going to write this to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to use this 5 to round up the 6 to 7, so it's 29.57. Now looking at our final question, which is the question that was given on the June 2022 paper, and at the time of creating this video, this was the most recent consumer arithmetic based question that was given on the CSEC past paper. So children go to a rodeo camp during the Easter holiday. Miss Rika buys bananas and oranges for the children at the camp. Bananas cost $3.85 per kilogram. Miss Rika buys 25 kilograms of bananas and receives a discount of 12%. How much money does she spend on bananas? Now first, let's find out the marked price for the bananas. So I'm going to call the marked price M.P, And the mark price is simply the cost before the discount would have been given. So we know that she spends $3.85 per kilogram, and she's buying 25 kilograms of bananas. So it will be $3.85 times 25, which is equal to, and I'll use my calculator here to aid me. So it's 3.85 times 25, which is $96.25. So it's $96.25. And this would have been the cost for the bananas, for the 25 kilogram of bananas before the discount. So let's see the discounted price. So I'll call it D.P, and we're finding the discounted price. Now, there are several ways how we could actually go about this, but again, I won't go through all of those routes. So discount represents the amount of money that is taken off the original price of the bananas in this context, right? So if 12% is taken off, how much percent is Miss Rika required to pay? And again, I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So all we have to do is subtract 12 from 100, which means she'll be required to pay 88% of the actual price, right? So if we find 88% of this $96 here and 25 cents, then we'll actually ascertain the amount of money that she would have spent for the bananas. Now, some persons would have found the discount first, the 12% of the $96.25, and then subtract it from the same $96.25, and that is perfectly fine, right? So there are many ways how we can solve the same problems many times in mathematics, but this is the route that I'll take. So 88% is the same as 88 divided by 100 times 96.25, and let's see what we'll get here. So let's see what we'll have here. So it's 88 times 96.25 is equal to, and we'll divide this by 100, and let's see what we're getting here. So it's $84.70. So $84.70. So Miss Rika would have been required to pay $84.70 after she would have been given the 12% discount here. Now looking at part 2 of the same question here, Miss Rika spends $165.31 inclusive of a sales tax of 15% on oranges. Calculate the original price of the oranges. So I want to find the original price, which is what I refer to as the marked price. Now the amount of money that Miss Rika would have spent on oranges inclusive of tax, which is this $165 here and 31 cents, I'm going to call it the selling price. So this is what they would have sold her the oranges for. Let me have my dollar sign here. So I'm going to call that the selling price of the oranges. We know that a tax, this includes a tax of 15%. Now, after 15% tax was added to the original price, then this was the cost. Now, let's see if we can develop a formula here to help us out, right? Now, I'm going to call the original price the mark price, right? So I'm going to use the mark price to represent the original price. So the selling price here would be equal to the marked price, which is the original price, plus the tax, right? Which is pretty easy to comprehend because that's what they would have told us. So this is inclusive of tax. So the selling price include the original price plus the tax that was added. So that's what we're going to start off with. I'm going to let the marked price be equal to X. So I'm going to use X to represent the marked price. Now, the tax is a percentage of the marked price. So the tax is 15% of the marked price, right? Which I denote as M.P. So I just use M.P. to represent marked price. Again, mark price represent the original price. So 15% is the same thing as 15 out of 100 times the mark price, which is x. Now, 15% can be written as a decimal if I use my calculator here. 15 divided by 100 as a decimal is the same thing as 0.15. So we can rewrite this as 0.15 times x, which is the same thing as 0.15x. So we can definitely represent the tax using 0.15x. Now let's go back to this initial formula here of the selling price is equal to the mark price, which is the original price, plus the tax. Now recall that the selling price was $165.31, which is equal to the mark price. We're using x to represent the mark price here, plus the tax, which is 0.15x. And please note that x is the same thing as saying 1x, which means we can definitely simplify the right hand side here because we have like terms. So 1x plus 0.15x will definitely give us 1.15x. And since we want to make x a subject here, we can definitely divide both sides by 1.15. And let's see what we'll get here. So we'll have x is equal to, again, I'll use my calculator to aid me here. So it's 165.31 divided by 1.15, which is equal to, so this is what we're getting, 143.745. I'm going to write my answer to 2 decimal places because we normally represent currency to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to use the 7 to round up the 4 by 1. So my answer will be 143.75. So that's $143.75. So this would have been the original price here. And again, x represents the mark price, and as I would have outlined previously, the mark price is the same thing as the original price in this context. So we can say, therefore, the original price is equal to $143.75, right? Just to make it clear. Now looking at part 3, which is the final part of our question here. The ratio of the number of bananas to the number of oranges is 2 to 3. Furthermore, there are 24 more oranges than bananas. Calculate the number of bananas Miss Rika bought. Now, recall the ratio here. So the ratio of bananas to the number of oranges is 2 to 3. So the first ratio represents bananas. The second ratio represents oranges, right? Now, each ratio represents the same amount. So it's pretty easy to calculate the number of bananas Miss Rika would have bought. Now, let's see how we can go about that. Now, I'm going to let one ratio, just so it's easy to understand, be equal to a box, just like this one, right? And let me do a demonstration here. Now, when it comes to bananas, we'll have 2 ratios representing bananas. So I'll use 2 boxes to represent the banana. And this is the side that represents bananas. Over here, we have oranges, and we have 3 ratios that represents oranges. Now, each box represents the same amount. Now, up to this point, would have had the same amount. Now, they would have outlined in the question here that there are 24 more oranges than bananas, which means this box right here must represent 24 because it's the only thing extra that we have here. And up to this point, we had the same amount, right? So this lets us know that each box represents 24. Therefore, the number of bananas that Miss Rika would have purchased, we can definitely ascertain that by simply multiplying 2 times 24, because we only have 2 boxes here and each box represents 24 bananas. So it's 2 times 24, which is 48. Miss Rika would have purchased or bought 48 bananas. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end of this one. I hope you found this video very helpful. Let me know in the comment section which topic do you want us to look at next. If you request it, you might just have it, right? So someone actually requested this topic and that's what we did. So let us know in the comment section below. Now don't forget to subscribe to the channel guys, give this video a thumbs up and hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we post new videos. I'm looking forward to see you guys in our next video. Until then, blessings and peace.